Welcome to her forbidden tales. Nate's bare skin tempts the crowd. Whips strike. Will he bow? Unveil his fate now.
I suppose I'd thought the terrace facing the sea was the entire club, that once we entered the garden, the sprawling branches would shield us from admiring eyes. But I'd have no such luck. I lowered my head, struggling to catch my breath, half believing the scene before me. The garden stretched endlessly, dotted with cloth-covered lunch tables, all crowded with elegantly dressed men and women. Serving them with cool detachment were hundreds of naked slaves, carrying trays of food and wine. Dozens of guests milled around the buffet tables beneath the lace-like leaves of California pepper trees, forming little clusters, laughing, chatting. Of course, up on the terrace of that imposing building, a throng of people lingered as always. But what struck me again wasn't just the garden's scale or the sheer number of people. It was how the crowd resembled any other in a strange way, except for the dizzying spectacle of the naked slaves. Sunburned arms and throats gleamed with golden jewelry, sunlight exploding off reflective lenses, silverware clinking against porcelain, tanned men and women in chic Beverly Hills. Attire ate lunch as if being served by a host of exquisite naked bodies was perfectly ordinary. And, as usual, near the gate, some 50 new arrivals huddled, submissive, trembling, each one visibly terrified. It was fascinating to see backs turned while faces engaged in earnest conversation, just as fascinating as catching bold stares and smiles. But it was all happening too fast. The cluster of new slaves pressed together as a group of managers closed in. They'd waited long enough for us to catch our breath before ordering us to run down a garden path. As we lined up, a sturdy, red-haired male slave cut in, followed by another. Managers whipped him, these ones seeming more polished than the yacht crew. Their builds were powerful, like that blonde sailor's, but they were decked out in white leather, tight pants, vests, and belts they used to herd us. They seemed naturally paired with the pale tablecloths, the women's wide floral hats, the men's white or khaki shorts, and crepe-striped jackets. I pulled myself together, hoping to spot a female manager, but saw none. Yet striking women were scattered throughout the garden. Short skirts, shapely legs, bright high-heeled sandals everywhere. The grass, though soft, scratched my feet. I felt dizzy. Lush green lawns all around, fragrant jasmine and roses, horses I'd seen in golden cages, giant blue and green macaws, pink and white cockatoos, in a gaudy beast cage, dozens of chattering capuchin monkeys. The grand finale. Peacocks pecking through flowers and grass. Paradise, sure, I thought. And we were the slaves here for amusement, like a scene from an ancient Egyptian tomb painting, naked slaves while princes and ladies dressed in finery. We were here to be used and enjoyed like food, to be eaten, wine, to be poured. We'd slipped into an uncensored slice of decadent history, driven through a garden of elite royalty. I couldn't breathe, not from running, but from a torrent of senses, desire peaking. The slaves serving at the tables were eerily calm. I kept glimpsing oiled bodies adorned with only a sliver of silver or a white leather collar. Wherever I looked, pubic hair and nipples jolted me, and I was one of them, I thought. This was my role. No escaping the script. They drove us faster, the manager's belts lashing hard. The whipping stung now. Two swells of thrilling, debilitating heat, exhilarating and weakening at once. Other slaves crowded the path's center to dodge the whips, but I stayed put. I seemed defiant, letting the lashes fall. The path twisted, turning 1,000 bends. I realized we were circling the garden, on display. A mental explosion hit me. No way out. I couldn't mutter a safe word and slip off for a bath and massage. In fact, nothing was in my control. Maybe for the first time in my life. We neared a stone terrace lined with tables. Heads turned. Members, guests, whoever they were, sizing us up. A dark-haired young manager began posturing with his belt. On some level, my rational mind said, his job is to whip us into a frenzy, so why resist? We're here to be reduced to nothing, to surrender our will. But I couldn't hold that thought. I'd lost something vital. Lost. Exactly what I'd told Julian. I wanted to be. Yet the scene around us felt familiar. We passed the pool again, the high wire fence of the tennis courts. We were almost back where we started. Now they herded us toward the garden's heart, where tables fanned out from a white bandstand, like one in a small-town park with Sunday music, but with a narrow runway jutting out like a fashion show catwalk. Seeing the stage, my blood ran cold, or hot, depending on how you saw it. In seconds, we were crammed beneath mimosa trees behind the bandstand, in the shade. Managers shoved us roughly together, barking at us not to touch each other. Then a silken voice flowed from the loudspeaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the volunteer slaves are now at the bandstand for viewing. For a heartbeat, my pulse drowned out everything. Then applause rose from the tables, echoing off the terrace slope, before fading into the hollow blue sky. I felt the trembling, anxious energy around me, like we were wired to the same live current. A tall female slave with thick, glossy blonde hair pressed her lovely breasts against me. They won't make us walk that runway, one by one, will they? She whispered. Yes, ma'am, I think they will, I whispered back, flushing as I realized we were two naked slaves struggling to talk, terrified the managers would hear. It's just the start, the red-haired male slave to my right said. Why can't we just serve drinks or something? The blonde slave muttered, lips barely moving. A manager turned, whipping her with his belt. Beast, she hissed. As he looked away, I stepped between her and him. When he turned back, he didn't seem to notice, lashing another slave instead. The blonde leaned into me slightly. For the first time, I thought, women have it easier. They don't show their feelings. Every man stood ramrod straight, humiliation plain as day. Either way, this moment felt like hell. Being bound was one thing, running with the herd was worse. Walking that runway? If I wasn't ready, Julian, they wouldn't take me, right? The crowd multiplied like splitting cells. People flocking to the bandstand, empty tables filling fast. I wanted to run. Not that I'd really do it. I couldn't get 2 steps, but I feared I'd balk or bolt if they made me walk that stage alone. My chest heaved like someone had shot me with another dose of aphrodisiac. The blonde slave pressed her soft, silken arm and thigh against me. I can't lose it like this, I thought. I can't fail the first test. A white-haired young man with ice blue eyes paced the bandstand, microphone in hand, telling the crowd the new volunteer slaves were top-notch. He wore the same white leather pants and vest as the managers, shirt open at the throat, but a tailored white cotton jacket gave him a tropical flair. Members gathered, sitting on the grass by the runway. Clusters stood under trees. Suddenly, a boutique dark female body was forced into the bandstand's center, a manager yanking her wrists above her head. Better than a full-on slave auction, this bare merchandise writhed in his grip. "Alicia, from Germany," the MC announced over the cheers. The manager spun her, then shoved her forward onto the long runway. No, I thought, maybe even whistling through my teeth. I wasn't ready for this. I should feel sorry for her, damn it, not stare at her plump little ass and flushed face. I was in the same boat. She moved to the runway's end in a graceful agony, hurrying back to the MC, clearly trying not to run. The crowd grew bolder. Some women subtly arched their bodies, scooting closer on the grass. No, impossible. They could do anything to me in passivity, but I couldn't let them make me do this. Yet how many times had I said that to Julian, and always managed what I was told, right? These are small stakes. Nate. The club is vast. Yes, but I'm ready. Julian. Even you said so. Next up was a young man, Marco, with a taut, tight back and a stunning face. He blushed as hard as Alicia, stiff as a broken hammer. He walked awkwardly, but I doubted anyone cared. The crowd turned wilder, as if this male slave unleashed something the girl couldn't. I felt a manager grab my shoulder. I froze. My God, there were 50 other slaves here. Give me a break. You have to do it, the blonde girl whispered. You've got to be kidding, I whispered back. Quiet, move, Nate. A manager shoved me forward. I didn't budge. He looked shocked. I couldn't move. The MC turned, wondering what the holdup was. Another manager seized my wrists. A third pushed me toward the steps. I'd heard dig in your heels plenty, but only now did I do it. I knew then. I'd lost all control. Now they dragged me into the bandstand like it was a Roman market. 2 more brawny arms joined the first 3. I had no chance. I can't do this, I said, struggling. Oh, yes, you can. One sneered. You will. And now. They released me suddenly, shoving me in front of the MC, betting I'd be too shy to bolt. Thunderous cheers erupted from every direction, like the roar when a fallen rider remounts a stubborn horse at a show. For a second, all I saw ahead was blinding light. But I didn't move, just stood helplessly on that Roman auction block, like all the other imports. At least I managed that. Come on, Nate, walk the runway, the MC said, his tone indulgent and mad, one hand over the mic. Whistles and catcalls rang from the front row grass sitters. I thought I'd back off, get off stage fast. But I put one foot in front of the other and started walking. My mind flew to the moon, beyond humiliation. This was a death sentence, a plank walk to drown. Cold sweat broke out, yet I stayed numb. But I started seeing again. eyes pounding me like hammers. I heard applause, low comments, just tones, no words. This system, glorious in every way. I slowed my pace on purpose. I belonged to them, mid-orgasm, taking a deep breath. Turn, walk back, easier. So why force myself to face those watching me? Those smiles, nods, soft, approving whistles. You bastards, you. Don't get clever. Nate, don't. But I felt a smile spread. I stopped, crossed my arms, and winked deliberately at two lovely dark-skinned women. One in a white hat, grinning wide. The front row roared, applause soaring. Damn it, don't just smile. Scan them all with your peripheral vision. Toss a little air kiss to that petite brunette in white trousers. Why not smile at every beautiful girl? Wink, blow kisses. Laughter and cheers came from everywhere. A real group cheered me, stretching back to the trees. People blew kisses back. Men waved, go on fists. Why not turn like a fashion model? No posing, you know. Just take it slow. Really see them? What's the big deal? Then I looked straight down the runway, locking eyes with the angriest bunch I'd ever seen. The kind you wouldn't meet in a dark alley. They glared, the MC gaping slightly. Show's over. Nate. One hissed loud enough to hear, teeth clenched. Get down now. I froze, but I only waved a dazed goodbye to my crowd and stepped in. I wouldn't let them drag me off. I bowed my head, walking toward them like I didn't see them, just being a good boy again. 2 seconds later, they grabbed my arms, threw me down the steps, hands and knees hitting grass. All right, Mr. Personality, I heard one say, voice trembling with rage. Another kneed me forward. All I saw were white boots as my head was forced down, lips pressed to leather, like it or not. Then a hand gripped my hair, yanking my head up until I met dark brown eyes, stunning like the rest of them. This, I felt, would be part of the sweet torment. Even the pastry chef here could set you ablaze, but this voice could choke your soul. Oh, you're real clever, aren't you? Nate, he asked, icy fury dripping, full of tricks. Not tricks, I thought, but didn't say. It was bad enough. Terrifying, really. I didn't grasp how it escalated so fast, or what I'd just done. Other managers closed in, like I was a dangerous beast, though the crowd roared on, the slave show continuing. Analyzing this shame, this disaster, was impossible. I'd messed up big. Damn it, I'd caused a stir out there. I'd failed. I tried to look submissive. Defending myself would be the worst move. That was a first for us. Nate, the brown-eyed one said, that little stunt you pulled, you're famous now. A handsome face, a booming voice that rattled you. His chest nearly burst from his shirt. What do you think the head of volunteer slaves will do when he hears about your little act? He asked. He flashed something in front of me, a thick marker. I think I muttered, shit, or damn it, under my breath. No noise, he warned. Unless you want a gag too. I felt the marker's pressure on my back, heard him spell out what he wrote, proud slave. He pulled me up. I stood. Standing was worse. A manager's belt lashed me. Then whips rained like hail, my body flinching. Eyes down. Nate, he said, Hands behind your neck. The marker touched my chest, writing the same words, spelling them out deliberately. I fought not to grind my teeth. I didn't get it. Why something so small hurt so much, regret morphing into panic. Why not the whipping post? One of the others asked. Soften him up. Hall inspection would be a breeze. Really, guys, I'm just a newbie at your mercy. No, we'll keep him lucid for the head of volunteer slaves, the first said, whatever he decides. He lifted my chin with the marker's tip. Don't try anything else, Blue Eyes, he said. You don't know what you're in for. I glanced back at those good little boys and girls as he shoved me aside, ordering me to stand still. The red-haired male slave just strolled on stage, properly meek, drawing whistles. The young blonde slave stared at me like I was some hero. Damn it. What was wrong with me pulling that clown act? I'd been fine until I had to look at them, had to smile. Now I clashed with the system, one I'd wanted to embrace. I'd resisted it, not surrendered, like I'd resisted everything outside. You're ready, Nate. You can handle what happens there. But is this really what you want? Yes, damn it, Julian. Either way, this little bastard had stirred up discipline, and the humiliation felt more real than ever.